I called our regular meeting to order. Mr. Santa Cruz, can you please lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance
to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Governing Board President, Ms. Patricia Jimenez.
Present.
Governing Board Vice President, Maria Guzman is absent today. Governing Board Member, Mr. Rudy Santa Cruz.
here.
Governing Board Member, Ms. Maria Hernandez.
Here.
And Governing Board Member, Mr. Harry Gerwal.
Present.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve June 26, 2025 regular governing board meeting minutes agenda?
So moved.
There a second?
Second.
Okay, call for the vote. Motion carries. Next, approval of June 12, 2025 regular governing board meeting with executive session minutes. Is there a motion?
Moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion, changes? Hearing none, call for the vote. Motion carries. Next is governing board reports. First is Ms. Guzman. She's not here. Mr. Santa Cruz.
At this present, I don't have a report at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gerwal.
Yes, Madam President. As we all know, Governor Katie Hobbs on Wednesday, June the 25th, rejected the full partisan budget measures, calling it reckless, claiming it slashes $255 million from healthcare coverage and $100+ million from K-12 education. The governor also vetoed a continuation budget package that would have kept the government running and avoid a shutdown. Governor Hobbs also vetoed House Bill 2610 that sought to remove all of Isaac Elementary School Board members from the office and require the same for any district put into receivership in the future, claiming this bill was a complete overreach, which I agreed with her. However, in Governor Hobbs' letter, she said the financial mismanagement of Isaac Elementary was unacceptable and that the district board members should take accountability and resign. On a positive note, I want to thank Dr. Lemma and the Isaac staff for taking the initiative on Sunday to reach out to the families that lost their homes in the fire that occurred at 41st Avenue in Van Buren. In the fire, and the trailers went up in flame. Through the help of the Isaac staff, the Red Cross, the Phoenix Fire Department, and many other media and community partners, these 33 individuals have been placed into safe shelters, and a funding effort has been started to help them financially. Also, the Consulate General of Mexico has been assisting families in replacing legal documents lost in the fire. Once again, Dr. Lemma and staff, thank you for all you've done to help our community. Thank you much. That's it in my report, Madam President.
Thank you. Next is Ms. Hernandez.
I have no report at this time.
Thank you. Next is myself. I also want to thank the Isaac staff. Dr. Lemma, thank you for responding. And, it's really sad what happened with our families. I also want to sincerely thank Governor Hobbs for her recent veto on House Bill 2610. Her decision has protected our district from a measure that would have set us back a full year in our financial recovery efforts. We remain fully committed to guiding Isaac towards long-term financial stability. Our top priority continues to be protecting our students, teachers, and schools. The governor's veto truly deserves the best interest of the Isaac community. It is important to clarify that HB 2610 was not about accountability of good governance. Instead, it was represented on political retribution, punishing our community for a staff mistake and in the process of stripping away the rights of our voters and the civil rights of our board members. The Arizona Constitution clearly prohibits ex post facto laws, and HB 2610 would have retroactively nullified the Isaac Tollison contract that was vital to saving our district. Moreover, the bill would have unconstitutionally unconstitutionally forced the majority of the public elected board members out of office, even though none of us have been charged with any or convicted of any crime. It is also sought bar current board members from seeking public office again, which is a clear violation of our civil rights. We look forward of continuing to work together to restore Isaac financial health and service to the community, integrity and dedication. And that's all my report. Next is Dr. Lema.
Madam President, members of the board, and the ISAC community present here today. We're keeping the 8 families and over 60 individuals impacted by Sunday's fire in our thoughts and are committed to supporting them through this difficult time. Thanks to the support of the Heart of Isaac, we have been in communication with the affected families and are extended our collaboration with the City of Phoenix, the Red Cross, and other community organizations that have offered their support. Last Wednesday, our district summer school program concluded with an average daily attendance of 912 students. Our 21st Century Summer Program offered a balance of academics and enrichment activities, providing students with a meaningful and engaging experience during the past 3 weeks. As of June, we are coming to a close of this academic year and are actively preparing for a strong start for the new academic year. Planning is underway for our annual leadership retreat and professional learning for our site leaders, which will help set the tone and focus for the year ahead. We're also excited for our Back to School Health Fair, a community event that offers schools registration and a variety of readiness services for our families that include vaccinations, haircuts, and other essential supports to ensure that our students are ready for day one. Additionally, we're preparing to welcome our newest group of teachers to the district. Through onboarding and training, we're focused on equipping them with the tools, resources, and support that they will need to be successful this academic year and creating a positive learning environment for all of our students. That, Madam President, concludes my report.
Thank you. Next, new business information, discussion, and action. Item A, overview of Vision Generated Board year-to-date budget expenditure roll-up report as of 6/19/2025. Mr. Jim Sermon, Chief Officer. Mr. Sermon.
Madam President, members of the board, members of the audience, thank you for coming. The report that's given in front of you. Somebody's mad. That's still working. The report you have in front of you is as of June 19th, and it gives you a snapshot in time. Unfortunately, and I'm beginning to see kind of what the board really needs in the future. This is a summary as of that day of where we stand between our budget and our expenditures and our encumbrances. So if you notice, there's 3 columns there. As of this report, for instance, M&O, we had spent almost $39 million. If you look at the encumbrance column, that is the outstanding purchase orders and the payroll that, and including payrolls that are being run currently, and they'll continue to run currently into July. So some employees and there'll be checks in July, paid in July. Until the payroll runs, they're in encumbrance. Until we pay bills, which we have until the end of July, pay bills that come in during the month of July. So those numbers are in encumbrance. It's not a fixed number. It is subject to change. But if you look at this right now, if all the encumbrances came in mathematically, the budget would be overspent. I can speak a little closer. Are you having trouble hearing me? So in that regard, at this point, we are not concerned about any budget problems because many of the maintenance and operation purchase orders other than payrolls will not come to fruition, meaning they haven't been closed. The vendors have not done any more work, and we keep the purchase orders on active in case something happens between now and through Monday. So we'd have no problem with that. As you go through there, you'll see that there's pluses and minuses as far as balances go. Classroom Site Fund has a positive net balance if you add the accounts up. So again, at this point in time, this is where the district stands, budget to expenditures. During this process, I did learn and have come to realize that this report does not give the board a good idea of where our money is going. But every board meeting, you do have the opportunity to see that. And right now, what I'm saying is that I'd like to do a training at a meeting and only take 10 minutes. If you go to the consent area called ratify accounts payable vouchers, that's the key to keeping your finger on the pulse of the district. And what I'd like to do is go through those at a meeting in a training so that you understand those and you can see exactly where our money is going to. Who we're paying, what's the reason for that payment, the account that was used, and the date of the payment and the dollar amount. That gives you a much better picture than a one-liner budget comparison report. So I'm proposing that we go down that road soon, especially for the new year, so that the board can then get a better idea of what's going on in the district, who, what, when, where, and why. And if any questions about the year-to-date budget and expenditure roll-up.
Thank you. Is there any questions from the board? I just have a quick question. What's going to happen if the governor doesn't sign the budget? What's the plan?
So theoretically, our biggest concern is, of course, in July, we have a TANs payment that is due. And we were depending on that final state roll-up payment that they delay until the following school year. We do know that that's been promised already, so that we will receive that payment. But being in the cash,
How much is that payment for?
About about $6.2 or $3 million.
I'm sorry, say again?
6.2 to $6.3 million. I can't remember the exact number.
Oh,
I
that's okay.
don't have it, but it's a little over $6 million.
and that money has been guaranteed because it was already guaranteed before the budget crisis. So the rest of the items basically gather around the fact, how much cash do we have? What will be the cash demands for the month of July? Assuming that they take 10 days to come up with a budget, our remaining cash balance should hold us. If it was to continue longer than that, we would be in a financial cash pinch. If it kept going, but I doubt that they're going to let it go that long. It looks bad and it makes the credit ratings drop for the state. So they're not going to want to do that. But as far as contingency plans, there has been some correspondence and email blasts from different groups about using words that we don't like furlough, things like that. That wouldn't be on the district's end per se. That would affect a lot of districts. But I just don't think the legislature is going to push us into that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, just to clarify, the proposal is if there is no plan, I mean, we will get no state aid in the month of July, other than what we have. We won't get our July state aid. Where right now, in addition to that, the state owes us approximately a little over $900,000 from June, because we only got 60% of our money this month, because that's all they could afford to pay. But they won't have no money to pay going forward, absent a budget approval by the state. So there's a lot of people looking into this, trying to figure out how this, because it doesn't just affect Isaac, it affects a lot of.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I do like the idea. I'm in on that to come and before the board meeting and go over the vouchers. So you could count me in on that. We could just schedule that appointment.
Madam President, just,
Very well.
I'll just lean back. So I heard that we have a TANs debt due in July. What's that?
No, I was just joking. Go ahead.
What's the amount of TANs?
The TAN is $8 million
How much?
plus $8 million plus the interest. So it's we just got that number, wasn't it? $8,300,000 and like $97. I'm trying to remember the exact dollar number.
$8
but
million.
8 million plus the interest of about 300,000.
Okay, and the rollout that we're getting back is gonna be between 6.2 and 6.3?
It's about $6.3 million, just right around there. Yeah, I can't remember the exact dollar. It might be 6.2 something or 6.3. Yeah, I'm for some reason 6.3 is sitting in my head.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we do have a cash balance that could that could fill
Oh
the
yeah,
gap.
right now we're currently sitting at a just about under. Well, let me see because I just paid a bunch of stuff today, so probably just under $5 million. Okay.
Okay, good. That's what I was
Um,
thinking.
yeah, and as you'll see, I believe on today's things that there's a resolution to approve the sale signing document, and that's going to bring us about 1.4 million in potentially by Monday.
Okay. And that goes into cash reserve, right? Or,
That goes into our sales capital 500 account.
It goes into the sales account, which is our fund 500.
okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
But it does add to our cash.
Okay.
That's on you, man. That ain't me.
Okay, item B, County Treasurer cash balances as of 6/16/2025. Mr. James Sermon, Chief Financial Officer, Information and we could just go without
Yeah, it's a
microphone.
bad plug.
Just would go under without a microphone. I mean, I guess. So, if you want to proceed, Mr. Sermon.
Okay, the one page that you roll-up account. That also includes the money from Tolleson Union. We also have Classroom Site Fund, which we're familiar with, which is 010, and that's got the cash balance in that account as of that date. Now remember, there's still one more payment that's coming through for that. One thing that we did learn recently is because the treasurer uses their own account numbers and does not completely have as many account funds as we do, the treasurer is by statute allowed to move money between two buckets. So think of it as the critical funds, which are budgeted funds, and then there's the funds that are cash funds. Well, to accomplish what he needs to do to keep us solvent as far as cash, there is an ARS statute 15996, and that gives him the right to move funds up into the first bucket or back down into the cash accounts. So what we've noticed is that the treasurer is capable right now, and I'm gonna talk to the Auditor General about it. He's able to move money back and forth, and it's to our advantage really because it keeps us from running out of cash. So he's constantly watching that balance. The problem is that we're not getting a memo that tells us he's made a move. We should be enabled to see those transfers. We see them on the numbers, we see them in the accounts changing, but we don't get any formal recognition of that number. So that's one thing we've got to work on. Because what we know is that if we have one fund down below that's a cash fund and it has a large amount of cash in it, he's free to move some of that money up above into the budget accounts so that we remain in compliance with the rules. We understand that. We just want to be able to follow it better. In the total, as Keith keeps reminding me, because I think budget, he thinks cash. At the end of the day, it's the cash at the bottom that matters, the total amount of cash. So in the treasurer's case, he's making sure that we keep each one of those budgeted funds with an adequate amount of cash to continue up to the point that we hit the end of the budget. So that's some of the reasons why we get anomalies in some of the reports. The treasurer's report sometimes, in some cases, does not agree to what our visions does, but in total, it should at the end of the day balance out. But this is the amount that was present on the treasurer's public site at 6/16. And you can see that for the most part, we've got negative accounts, positive accounts, but the total balance is positive.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll just add that since you're talking about doing the training on vouchers, it might be helpful to do for, and I mean, I could contribute to that if you want in regards to how these treasure balances roll up from our accounts, because there is a key that will tell you which ones of our accounts end up in which of these accounts and those dollars, and we should reconcile in that aspect. Plus, in regards to what Tim was saying in regards to the buckets, there's the buckets. I could separate that out and explain that more in detail in regards to, when bucket one, what he can call them, bucket one is basically all our budgeted accounts. There's 4 budgeted accounts that are included in there, and what that total is, and that's called the pool amount. That amount has to be positive in order for the treasurer to honor a voucher. And that's why the money gets moved. That if the total of those counts starts to get to a negative, he won't honor a payment. So if there's more funds down below or cash accounts, he may move some funds up there to cover that. There's other things come in. And the other funds below it are grants and cash fund accounts. And of course, grants usually always have a negative balance, and they're offset by the cash account that have to have a positive account. Because grants, we pay for those in advance and we get reimbursed for those. So typically you're going to see a negative balance. It shouldn't be high if we're doing things right, and we're getting reimbursed on a regular basis. And we're working toward that. Well, within this district, my objective next year is, once everything's cleared up, is that we're bi-weekly drawing down on those grants so that we don't ever have a large negative balance. And we can go through that in more detail if you guys want to see training.
And the funds aren't one way. He can move funds from the bucket 1 to bucket 2.
Who's he?
The county
The county
treasurer.
treasurer? Okay.
And all county treasurers have to follow this ARS statute.
Does the board have any questions?
Yeah, Madam President,
Mr. Guerra?
just a general kind of, consensus thinking here, because if he has the abilities to move cash or move these items, right, the line items around, does he also have the ability, let's say, you want to make life hard, to hold them in place? And okay, that's what I'm concerned with, because I don't know the ARS, but there could be an opportunity where if you decide to hold them for an extra day, instead of moving them into that, it would put us into a negative position in the cash side, which is what you're always looking at, right, Mr. Kenny?
Well, I'm looking at both. I'm looking at cash because I know what the treasurer is looking at, and to make sure that we don't end up in the exact situation that you're talking about. So I'm monitoring the cash, plus I'm trying to spend to the cash, but I also always have to be looking at the budgets because, by statute too, we're not allowed to overspend our budget. And they're 2 different items, and that's the hardest thing about understanding the school districts is you've got budgets. You're bound to not spend your budget, but budget doesn't always equal cash and stuff there. So you have to understand both sides of it, especially in this situation where the fact is if we don't have cash, they're not going to honor our expenditures for vouchers. They're not going to issue checks for our vouchers. So I'm constantly trying to monitor both and look at, we try to project in the future to make sure that we have enough funds to pay those bills. So try and figure out the best way to do that.
So there are some safeguards in place, the guardrails, and you're the guardrail.
Right now I am.
Yeah, okay, got it.
So
got it.
there's also clearing accounts. So he's got two clearing accounts, and one is for payroll clearing, and that's the checks, payroll checks that have not been cashed by the employees. And as you can imagine, with electronic deposit, that's slow. Very few employees get checks. He also has another account called the clearing account, and that's all of the activity that's going on, waiting treasurer to book those individual accounts. But we get credit for that cash. And it's should be always positive. We should have constant cash that's waiting to be placed for the right account. So we still get credit for that as cash to our benefit.
Thank you.
So, for clarification, so on, account, well, the one that you mentioned with Tolleson, um, that's the amount that we have left from the, no?
Not, we'll get to that. So what I mentioned was is that the other monies is a group of accounts that there's a cheat sheet. We'll bring that up when we do a training on that. And that also contains a lot of other funds that are rolled up into that. So it's not just Collison's money. That also includes other funds that are part of the grouping.
Okay, because that's what I would like to see, and I like the idea because I see all these numbers, and if you put a cheat sheet for us to kind of know what goes in there, and is this going to be? Are you going to present to this? How often? Like I like what you're presenting. We're actually seeing something, and I like it. So next time that you present this to us, we at least kind of know more in detail what you're talking about, and like you said right now, so and so goes into that fund because if you provide us a cheat sheet on that.
We'll do that. The other thing is by doing a training on the vouchers, you'll be able to come in. I'm told they're available for board members to come in and visit on Fridays. Look at them. You'll be able to also in your board packet, you'll have the vouchers. You'll be able to go through the vouchers. You'll be able to, with 24 hours before 24 hours before the meeting and say, would you please tell me more about this particular expenditure? So that will give the board an ability to turn around and check questions.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So we move on to C, overview of Fund 500 revenue and expenditure as of 6/20/25. Mr. Jim Servin.
Essentially, we put together something for the board to give an idea. Money from Tolleson is tied very closely to 610. That's our cash hole, if you will. 610 was extremely overspent. When we finished the AFRs through the 2024. What the only way to look at 500 is you have to look at it in the perspective of also Fund 610, which is capital. And the district overspent capital, and we're still getting bills coming in for capital. But we did start off and say, first of all, out of the money, we have identified money that we basically spent that hit that Tolleson money. And for the most part, we've outlined $2.7 million in expenses that hit that month, that Tolleson funds. If you go into the Fund 500 itself, it shows that we started with a cash balance before the money coming in of 1.1 million. We got 25 million, and that's shown as a transfer. We have the sale from the Kazan property, and then we have expenses that we've moved in and out, and we've detailed those above, leaving roughly an ending cash balance of 500 of 25 million. Does the treasurer have an ending balance of 25 million in the account? He does not. He has moved money under that statute to cover the cash up above. In a way, he's doing us a favor because he's also stopping the computing of interest. As long as he's not issuing warrants, we don't have any interest expense.
Yeah, and you can see that if you went back to the treasurer's cash balances, I could really quickly point that out to you guys because when he's talking about our 610 account, that's a capital outlay. It's called 5610 in theirs. He's showing a negative $9 million. We're showing a negative, what, $21 million? So what he's done is he's moved a lot of that money in to reduce that negative account. And the reason he's done that is because, again, as we were talking about the two buckets, this has been rearranged, but if you were to see his report, that capital is going to be up in the fourth item up above. Not that's why I would present it to you. It's the two buckets, and that bucket number. Then there, if that 19 million was in there, we'd end up with a negative. You'd end up with a negative pool fund balance. So he's taken that the negative
Uh-huh.
capital on his books so that we have a positive and we can make those payments. If that makes sense. But from our book standpoint, what actually happened is what Jim is showing. Good, I'm familiar with it.
Separated out into the two buckets.
Well, go ahead, Jim. I didn't mean to touch you.
No, that's a good
Thank-
segue into it. See, I was prepared for that. So essentially in talking about where's the money, what's the balance, the balance after talking about the transfers into 610 to cover some of that overspend in 610, roughly then what's remaining is about $4 million. But we're looking at it too closely as being this pile of money versus this pile of money when the treasurer works on a basis of it's one big pot of all.
Where are you seeing the $4 million? The one on the, the
Very
bottom?
bottom. You have
The-
to,
oh,
you
the
have to
last
look
one.
at 610 and
Okay,
what's going
610,
on
okay.
in 610. And this is from our books, and our books have to be reconciled every month to the treasurer. And there's sometimes through the treasurer's account, there are transactions that are still hitting from last year, adjustments and so forth. So it is a struggle every month, and it's where the reconciliation process is always 3 months behind because we depend on Maricopa County to help with that start of that process.
Yeah, and if I were to do a summary of when you want to know what happened to that 25 million, 25 million, essentially, 20 million of it went to pay our negative cash balance right off. So we had approximately 5 million the day day we received that money. And then you had $5 million there, and then we had another sale of 2 point that gave us $7 million. Of that 7 million, we've had to spend about $4 million of it, just under
Yeah,
four,
True, Charlie.
just under $4 million to pay capital expenses because we have a negative capital account. We can't spend capital. We have to pay our capital out of that now and stuff there. And then there was because there was some overspending in regards to that we've been working to fix in the M&O from last year because when we came on, as Jim
Budget
showed,
balance.
as Jim showed you, the encumbered right now showing us a negative 200,000. When we came on, it was that encumbered balance was over $7 million. That negative overspending was, with all the encumbered, was over $7 million. So some of the actions we did by reducing staff and stuff like that saved some of that, but we couldn't save it all. So we had to cover some of that expense out of the other things to get through this year without going over budget. That's the simplistic definition, explanation of what happened.
Okay, well, thank you.
And we started the year off negative cash and budget. So it's just a catch-up game. It's what it is. Constantly trying to catch up to the prior years.
Okay, so we move on to approval of fiscal year 2026 proposed expenditure budget. Mr. Jim Sermon, Chief Financial Officer, is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Sermon.
So what ends up happening is the budget that's proposed is actually a little bit stunted, and we don't really know what school budgets are going to be because of the state legislature. However, we've gone ahead and assumed that we're getting our 2% increase that's mandatory by the Constitution of Arizona. So that number is included in here. They could change some other numbers within the budget, but it's probably not going to have a substantial impact to the district. If you go with the PowerPoint presentation, you should have a copy of that or on your laptop. The base level went up, so we've got $100 more per student than last year, which helps greatly. The transportation support level, I'll just tell you now, that's never going to go up. The state is never going to give more money for transportation. It doesn't matter what our costs become to move students around. It is frozen for pretty much all districts. Yes, they give a mileage amount, but the mileage amount is never equal to what they froze it at. So we're a district. They froze most districts, and in our case, we were frozen at $726,000. Other districts were frozen at their amount at the time that the legislature wasn't going to fund transportation like they had been. If a district does drive a lot of miles, that would include on the reservation and in some remote areas, they may get a little increase, but for the most part, that's fixed in stone. Every year we've gotten $726,000 here. Doesn't matter how much it costs to operate the fleet, that's the amount that we get. District additional assistance is based on last year's ADM. So there's always a lag there. If there's an increase in students, you don't get an increase in money for capital items. And the other thing is that we can't use capital money anyway. We generated over $2 million capital budget, but because we're negative when it comes to the overspending capital, that money then just goes to slowly at 2.6 million or so offset the deficit. So we will not have any money in capital to spend. What goes out of capital, that's what pays for software. That's what pays for computers and technology. Capital repairs, significant repairs, that simply account doesn't exist anymore. We cannot charge against it. So for instance, in next year, we have budgeted money to come out to pay for our software needs, non-instructional needs, and instructional needs for software technology. We have subscriptions of all different kinds, as you can imagine. Box is one of them. And at this point in time, the only account basically we can put that against is the account the creditor calls 5002, and we call it the 500 account, which is where proceeds from the sale of buildings go, and also that's the Tolleson Union money. So we are at least able to keep the technology going and our subscriptions going because of that. And that amount is about roughly 500, if I remember right, about 550,000 a year, just in fixed expenses every year with renewals of all those licenses. The classroom site fund is going up, and so that will continue. That's gone up about $50, and that will be helpful as well moving down the road. We had a carry forward from 25, a budget balance carry forward. We're estimating to be around $50,000. The ADM for 26 right now is projected to be 4,432. We have budgeted for a decrease at this point in time. And in additional district, as I said, that's $2.5 million that we have to leave on the table to cover the deficit.
I'm sorry, so we're saying we're going from 4,570 to 4,432?
Yes.
That's our initial budget plan. 10 days will adjust for that.
The state does expect, because of the legislature, they have said that, they'll entertain revised budgets they're expecting them more quickly. This time they're saying October, but you can actually revise a budget and formally revise a budget at any time. So in October, we could change all the numbers. We could wait till December to change them. It just depends on how quickly we want the state aid and so forth to recalculate. So we'll probably file one earlier than later.
Yeah. And we never want to underestimate our budget numbers, because if you underestimate, you've lost you put money on the table that you're never going to get back. So you want to start your year out with something that what you're hoping to get. And this is going to be a weird year. And you and I have talked, and it's pretty obvious what's happening here with the immigration issues and everything else there. So there's a lot of unknowns of the actual student count right now, but we're going to go with what our initial projections going to have. We were going to have just for the first budget, and then we'll see what actually transpires within the first 10 days of school. That'll give us a better reading of where we're at, and then we'll do a revised budget based on that. Now, obviously, we're going to budget to our expenditures probably less than this budget right now, and then we'll adjust once we know realistically where we're at. That makes sense.
There is a new reporting requirement because ISAC isn't the only one they're concerned about. So the new reporting requirement essentially expects districts to also leave some money on the table for carry forward into 2027. So that's new. That schools have never had to do that before. Normally you budgeted 100% of your budget to be spent, which technically we've done, but mathematically we have to leave something for carry forward. So in this particular budget, and it can be changed, it's not fixed in stone, we are setting aside for 2027 a carry forward of 400,000. It might be more, it might be less. We are hoping that it's a lot more that we're carrying forward. As far as classroom site fund, we've left 400,000. We're going to leave at least 400,000. We've just said that. Doesn't mean we have to, but if we leave $2 million on the table, nobody's going to say a word. They just want some number, because districts have never actually committed to a goal of trying to leave money on the table. And then for unrestricted capital, of course, we're leaving all the money on the table because they're going to take it anyway. So that's pretty much the new reporting requirements.
Yeah.
I've done a comparison between the May 2025 revised budget and June. And as you can see, for students for ADM unweighted, it's 134 less. Weighted, it's 155 less. I've included now on this comparison the Group B weight. Group B represents, for all intents and purposes, special education. So the students that require more money to service and educate, that's the Group B weight. There's a few other factors in there. You get a few dollars for ELL, and you get some dollars for K3 students, because they know K3 students need more resources, need smaller class sizes and so forth, especially toward the goal of K3 reading. So we get a little extra money there. We do pick up students then in the weighted Group B. The total ADM is going to change and go down 182 weighted students. The base level went up $100. So if you start doing the math, you're picking up $100 per student, and you've lost basically 182 students. So you start to get some mathematical interaction going on. The audit fees are in there. We get 2 years ago's audit fees, and that's gone up. The TEI Experience Index. In 2025, we did not have any TEI, or Teacher Experience Index. More than likely, what that is that if our teachers have more years in service as a teacher than the state average, you get a positive TEI, Teacher Experience Index. So if your whole district has seasoned teachers that have been teaching for years, more than likely you have a good chance of having a higher TEI. If you're a newer district or hiring new teachers straight out of college, that's not going to help multiply your teacher experience index. But in this particular case, in 2025, we did not have any TEI. Could have been for a number of reasons, including bad data loaded into ADE. It's called the SDER report. It's student, I don't know. I don't know what the acronym stands for, but it's done in October. So this October, we'll be telling the state, and that will determine what next year's 27's teacher experience index. But from that,
So
we
Jim,
actually picked up 118,000.
I was going to ask you, is that from last year's October's numbers, 118,000? We were over the state average?
We got no TEI in 2025.
I know, but the reporting for October of last year it would be for this fiscal year 26. So is that number confirmed, that additional, all right, we had experience over and above the average of the state. Okay.
The 55 report does report the TEI. So, and they've already computed and validated the October SDRs. The base support funding level then rounded basically funding level. So when we got down to where the real money actually close to transportation fund, that doesn't change. The revenue control limit is still $140,000. But look at what happens in May of 2025. We had a negative budget balance carry forward. Now that number may even increase as we file new AFRs. So these numbers aren't exactly known at this point in time. However, we're expected to go into the new year with $50,000. So that actually gave us a positive amount. So we're picking up a lot of money because we're not going to have a loss this year. So that helps our bottom line immensely. Then we've got the override, and we can never lose track of that because we're going out for renewal. That brings in over $5 million this year. And that number really makes a difference. It helps. We've also got desegregation money. And so when we're finally done with it, our budget is actually higher than it was last year, even with the decrease in students. Caveat is always have to refile the AFRs. We may have to refile all the budgets going back to 22. Depends on what school finance wants us to do. But, and that may shake up numbers. That's the best we know right now. We know I know for a fact that in 2022, there was not a big difference in anything. 2022 is pretty much a nothing burger. We actually picked up a little bit of M&O, but it's the 23 and 24 when they start processing those. And they should be getting to those. So there's our budget limit, $43,986,000. As I said before, there's no capital. It's just sitting there. And the loss is being lowered every year by $2.5 million. And then last thoughts, I'm just saying what we're doing. We're amending all the returns. We may have to revise the budgets, and that would give us clean numbers coming into 2026. So we would have an adjustment that actually passes through into 25 and then passes automatically into 26. Form of a ADE budget 75 report, which is why districts revise their budget in December.
Okay, does the board have any questions?
Madam President?
Mr. Garwa?
Yes. Dr. Lemma, maybe you can answer this for me. Just because of what's going on at the federal level and because of what's going on with desegregation funds, right? Is there any risk of Isaac losing its desegregation funds, could be called unitary and that would be taken away? Or can the legislature come in and sweep that like they try to do at Phoenix Union?
I will defer to Jim. I have not heard that those monies going away.
The desegregation started the money started over about 25 years ago due
Mhm.
to a federal lawsuit.
Right.
The interesting thing is the federal lawsuit turned around and the states all signed a document, if you will. And the document said, we will not be bad anymore. But it took over 10 years before they figured out what they were going to do financially to make that difference. And the feds obviously stepped back and said, well, it's not our problem, it's a state problem. So what happened is that a group of schools in Arizona, they had certain ones that were found to be in noncompliance. They could elect into desegregation money or they could waive it and say, we're not interested in the money. And you'll find that the districts that in Arizona that tend to receive desegregation money, there depends on their school number. If you've got a school number 1, as far as the district, meaning the first district around, then automatically you are probably part of that DSEG. Number 5 is ISIC. Those schools they were found in violation because of the times, and they settled with the court and said, we're going to tax our taxpayers directly for the DSEG money. So the answer to your question is, it's a federal decision, and one district, I can't remember, but I think it was the Union District here, Phoenix Union, tried to get out of it. And the court turned around and said, oh, no, we're not letting you out of it. So that's why the state funding has continued, the local funding. Could the legislature do that? Well, they would have to convince the federal court that we're no longer in that situation. So it would take the federal government working with the state government to come up with an agreement saying it goes.
Well, and the reason I asked the question is because I was actually on the board of Phoenix Union when we became unitary. And when we went before the federal court, uh, we had that discussion about the federal funds because it was federal funds, right? And so we were able to keep the funds in place. However, a couple of our legislative representatives decided they wanted to try to sweep the funds. And so that's when the Fed stepped in and said, you can't sweep the $50 million. It's got to stay. So the reason I bring this up is because the way that we're currently looking at federal funding, I look at everything to say, is there a window that somebody could come in and try to make a change, right? Because they've tried it before, obviously, and it hasn't gone through. And this is a pretty significant amount of money for us right now. Yeah. So, I always want to make sure that whatever it takes, that we stay in compliance with that and that, we don't end up putting ourselves in any kind of a situation, right? You're right. It's, federal funds and state legislatures, but we're in a position today where the state's looking to try to sweep all the kind of money that they can find. So I would just kind of bring that up, but that's just from a personal experience.
It's scary for the districts to get it because it really is something that is bigger than just a local, bigger than a state deal. It involves the federal courts,
Right.
and it is so significant. Tucson Unified receives. Somebody told me they receive over $35 million from it.
Yeah.
And to lose $35 million in this day and age would be just.
Well, Phoenix Union receives 50 million. That's in their budget.
Then it could be even more. I know Phoenix Elementary, I found out through researching the DSEG, I found out that they actually were allowed to come on. They elected to come on and they let them come on late. They were, I think, the last district in Arizona that was able to do it. And it was like 8-10 years after everybody else.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. Um, for if you go to the other PDF, proposed budget, I have a question. I'm looking under page. What page is this?
At the bottom.
Yeah, at the bottom.
I don't think on the PDF one.
because I don't see anything going towards last year for textbooks. We had monies, and this year we have nothing. So why don't we have anything for curriculum?
We have we have no capital dollars.
So there's not going to be anything for curriculum.
Comes out of a grant.
So you're telling me nothing for curriculum,
Nothing.
little,
Nothing
zero.
for tech. Well, there's something for curriculum, but there's nothing in the budget under M&O or the funds other than title funds to pay for textbooks.
So what are we going to do with our curriculum with our students?
And Madam President, what I can share is that we're fortunate in a way that curriculum materials have been purchased and accounted for next year. When we look at next year's setting the budget for next year, that's when we need to begin allocating some money for curriculum materials. But for this academic year 25-26, in terms of curriculum materials for students, we are set.
So every school is going to get their budget, correct? Every principal is going to get their budget.
Yes.
So are you going to go over with them what stuff they could spend and not spend for our kids' necessities?
They will see their budget, so they'll be able to look at their budget and see what they have to spend. I can tell you in all reality that there is almost no money for travel. There's no money for classroom trinkets.
Classroom what?
It's a technical term, classroom trinkets. The money's not going to be there to to have all kinds of pay for decorations in the classroom.
Okay.
And a whole bunch of sticky stars to give to students and stuff. Those are all part of the educational experience. I know it was with my kids, but the bottom line on sports is that we've got a budget for supplies. The supplies will cover what the principals need to run their school and the classroom. But as far as excess or more money, it's not as much money as they got last year.
We're pretty much going to be seeing principals sending letters to our families that they need essentials.
We'll be providing most of the essentials. Their budget wasn't cut that much. But there was actually, the principals even had an account for Amazon. They don't have an account for Amazon anymore. It's part of their supply money. It's not a separate line item anymore, so they have control over it, so they can decide with their funds. Our budget is so much keyed on salaries and benefits, which have not technically gone down. The benefits haven't gone down. After what's left, there's not much. It's 20 some, low 20% of the budget. I pretty much followed as closely as possible an amount for supplies.
Okay.
We will look at every time that a school makes a purchase. There won't be a lot of blanket purchase orders. We will look at every purchase before pushing it through to become a purchase order.
Okay. This here 500 fund, which it says school planned.
That's the
That's
official
that's
title.
the ones that we were. And then what about for our special needs education?
So
What are we cutting? I mean,
so special ed, for the most part, you'll find it on the whole summary on the second page. So you got a cover page and then it's the second page. And if you go to the center of the page, it's called Program 200 and 300 Special Education. And in those numbers, you'll find the ELL. You'll also find special education itself. You'll also see the contractors for special education that are in there under the column called Purchase Services. In other words, the special education, we're budgeting $3 million for contractors.
just sideways over here, so I can't look at it.
I have to turn to the
So, yeah,
laptop.
if you were to,
Okay.
if you were to look
Got
at
it.
prior year and, budget and, is that prior year actual?
Yes.
s-
Or it's prior year budget.
Budget, because
It's
we don't
prior
have
year
the
budget.
actual yet. To the budget, you're gonna see total, for special ed paid out of M&O is 9,000,003 compared to last year's budget to this year's budget has 8.3 million. So there's about $1 million reduction budgeted right now, but that's not all that's spent on special ed. There's also assistance provided by some of the grants and stuff there. So
There's
that-
one grant,
yeah, there's-
just special education.
there's one grant that we have that's just special education.
So now that you're talking about grants, how many grants do we have?
You know how many grants we have in total? I'd have to go count them. I don't know all of them by hand.
Just off the top of my head, I would say we have 13, 14 grants.
I don't know.
And we have a page that'll give you an idea of the grants.
It doesn't give you the individual.
It doesn't give you the individual ones. But the individual ones can be found on the. Okay, I know it's here. We dealt with it. That page that was the budget comparison.
Oh, the budget comparison.
It's
One up
the
there.
3-page report. No, if you go to the
Number-
M&O report.
The number
summary,
5, page number 5. That's what you're talking about.
That's it. You'll see all the grants listed. They start with Fund 100.
Okay.
The Fund 100, 200, 300, and 400 are all grants. Some of them, so the old year grant has a number and the new year grant has a number.
Okay. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna come and see you before the meeting. So another quick thing, you mentioned that you're gonna do fixed prior AFRs. Can we see something like you did in this presentation comparing last year's versus this year's? I really like this. It's very visual for me and kind of seeing the comparison of what we had prior and what changes you made.
The state is actually doing that. But the problem is that it's just Excel columns and rows and columns.
Or you could put something
But-
like this.
But we can put something like that. Well, that's how it's done. It's done manually, and yes,
Yeah.
we can.
Yeah, it would be great.
Question.
Mr. Santa Cruz?
Jim, do we have a procedure now that we can hold somebody accountable for these grants? Because that's what started out this mess. Nobody accounted for all these grants, and it wasn't communicated to the accounting department. That's what got us in this fiasco.
The accounting department, fortunately now, is in charge of grants. So the business section is in charge of the grants, which is a subsection based on the organization chart. And we've also started educating the grant people in that their primary duty is to get grants, and they've already been successful at getting some new grant, one new grant at least that I know of. But they are also the first line of defense
Okay.
when the schools and when people are not using the grant according to the budget. So they now have access to read the budget that's set up by accounting, and then they're the first alarm that somebody's not spending money according to the grant.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we have
There's other
almost like a
processes and procedures that
almost like
we've
a
also
fail-safe
implemented. We've also
situation.
implemented other processes and procedures. It's
Pardon
not,
me? I'm sorry?
we've also are implementing other processes and procedures under the grants. So for instance, prior, nobody had any stop on spending grants prior to getting a budget approval. We don't spend a dollar out of a grant fund until the grant has been
Approved.
submitted and approved.
That's good.
Once the grant is submitted and approved, we don't spend a dollar outside those. We don't approve. We have an approval process. We won't go through and approve a requisition and open a PO for a request for a grant if that expenditure is not in the approved grant. We may put it aside and say, okay, if we have a discussion with the executive team and group and say, oh, we're not going to spend this money in this grant. We'll say, okay, well, you can we'll hold this. We're not going to approve it. We'll go out, we'll do a revision on the grant, and we'll put a freeze on spending on the grant until that grant gets revised and approved. And we'll move money from one account that we haven't spent into that account, and then we'll cancel, if there's a PO in those accounts, we'll cancel that PO and open a new PO. But the process and procedures now will be, there will be checks before that those go in before that. And then the next step is, part of that is by doing all that, the idea is to do drawdowns on a regular basis, which weren't being happening either. So when we do the drawdowns, those are reconciliation every time that drawdown. I'm implementing that every time we do a drawdown, there's a reconciliation to that account, and there's a printout. Even though that's not provided to the state, we have that in our record, so we know what we've drawn down. Because I'm doing a lot of reconciling in these grants right now with all the adjusting journal entries, and because the grants weren't opened and the money was spent, then it got moved, and it's just all over. It's a mess. That's not happening.
Well, I'm glad that happened because it's beyond me that that happened. I just, I worked in a nonprofit organization with grants, and the economy department was always the one that gave us the gold, whether it's I could spend it or not. So
Yeah.
that's a good thing. It's just too bad that wasn't in
It wasn't in place before.
yeah.
The money was being spent faster than anything was being done with it, and nobody was accounting for it. And then they were trying to make it fit into
They were
these
trying to
buckets.
make it fit. That's what caused
That's what
it.
the problem happened. That's where the problem happened.
Okay.
Instead of
that's
planning it first and then spending the money, it's being spent, and then we can say, "Oh, where can we put this?" I don't know if that
yes.
makes sense, but and then you run out of buckets, and now you got all this bucket of money that you don't know where to spend it because you didn't
They were
account for it.
budgeting to cover their expenditures. So one of the things that we've noticed is that journal entries are bad. You do not want to just fill your books full of journal entries because you lose the trail. And the thing here is that they were changing their
Can we focus on the budget, not because we need to stay on topic. So if there's no further questions, I call for the vote. Okay, motion carries. Now we have presentation and draft strategic plan, Dr. Lily Lema, interim superintendent. Dr. Lema?
Madam President, members of the board, and ISAC community present tonight. As a governing board, you are the architects of the school district that best fits the needs of the ISAC community. You not only set district policies, but you set the vision and provide oversight on the direction. The strategic plan draft that I'm presenting today is the culmination of the collective work that started in 2023, believe it or not, as we aim to take the current strategic plan to the next level. It is important to acknowledge that the development of these revisions have been a collaborative effort led by Ms. Carrizosa, involving extensive input from various stakeholders within our community in the forms of a steering committee and community focus groups, giving parents and staff opportunities to provide input. During the governing board study session on February 2024, we had brought forward to you input and feedback, the drafted versions of the mission, the vision, core values, and the pillars. Following that study session and for the remainder of the 2024 year, we focused on outlining strategies and measures of success for each of the 5 pillars. Given our circumstances this last semester, focus on the strategic plan revisions have been on pause for a short period of time. My intent today is to ensure us to recommit to this work by reviewing and receiving your feedback on this draft with keen attention to the mission, the vision, core values, and the pillars. We will take this information and develop a final plan with more detailed strategies, performance indicators, and measures of success. This will then be used for our reports and give you measurements to provide oversight on our progress towards realizing the goals set forth in the plan. So beginning with mission and vision, the mission defines the core purpose of our school district. It answers the question of why we as a district exist and what do we seek to do every day. And that is to provide exceptional education through rigorous, relevant, and personalized learning that recognizes the unique attributes of every student. The vision, on the other hand, captures what we aspire to become or achieve over a period of time. In our case, with the proposed time frame of this drafted strategic plan, is the next 5 years. So the proposed vision is Isaac Elementary School District will be a premier learning organization that prepares every student for a future of success and lifelong learning. Core values on the next slide of our strategic plan will be grounded on 4 core values: access, collaboration, excellence, and accountability, which is based on the collective work and input that we have received, as I mentioned before, reflecting the foundational beliefs that guide the behaviors, the decisions, and the culture of our district. These values shape how we interact, how we set those priorities, how we work together to create an inclusive, high-performing, and transparent educational environment. They provide a shared sense of purpose, promote unity, and build trust across our community. Ultimately, our core values ensure that we do not only pursue our goals effectively, but do it so with integrity, with alignment, with a deep commitment to help every member of our school community thrive. Pillars is the next section that we have here. And these 5 pillars are built and reflect our vision for a high-performing school district. The pillars of educational excellence, safe and healthy learning and working environments, stakeholder involvement and community collaboration, professional growth and staff excellence, and our 5th one, operational effectiveness, efficiency, and resource optimization, encompass all aspects of our organization. They guide our efforts to ensure that every student is empowered and equipped to succeed. Every family feels connected and informed, and every staff member is supported in reaching their full potential. Rooted in our core values of access, collaboration, excellence, and accountability, these pillars provide a united framework for continuous improvement and lasting impact across our districts. Finally, we have our priorities. Each of our pillars outlines 4 priorities. Strategic priorities are the focused areas of action that bring a district mission and vision to life. They help direct energy, resources, decision-making toward the initiatives that have the greatest impact. Priorities ensure clarity, alignment, and accountability across departments and schools. By identifying what matters the most, they allow our district to stay on course, measure progress, and achieve meaningful results for students, staff, and the broader community. In our first pillar, educational excellence, you will see that this pillar will focus on closing achievement gaps and raising proficiency in reading, writing, math, and digital learning. It also reflects the district's commitment to equitable access to high-quality instruction for all students. Pillar number 2, safe and healthy learning and working environments, encompasses the importance of safe, respectful, and supportive environments for students and for staff, prioritizes wellness, emergency preparedness, and culture where everyone feels valued and secure. Our Pillar 3, stakeholder involvement and community collaboration, strengthens partnerships by promoting meaningful engagement among students, families, staff, and the broader community. It supports open communication and a culture of respect, inclusion, and a shared responsibility. Pillar number 4, professional growth and staff excellence, is dedicated to recruiting, retaining, and developing high-performing staff through collaborative and supportive workplaces. It promotes a values-driven workforce culture that fosters confidence, teamwork, and continuous improvement. And finally, pillar number 5, operational effectiveness, efficiency, and resource optimization. This pillar ensures that district operations are managed responsibly, efficiently, and in alignment with educational goals. It includes strategic budgeting, resource allocation, and the maintenance of safe, clean, and well-equipped facilities. This draft represents just the foundation of the strategic plan. It's our shared blueprint for achieving the district's mission vision through clear priorities and core values. From here, and with your input and feedback today, we will develop a final version that includes detailed strategies, performance indicators, measurable outcomes to guide our work and support your oversight. These elements will inform ongoing reports and help track our collective progress. I welcome your questions, your input, your feedback as we refine and ensure a plan that truly reflects our district's goals and aspirations.
Does the board have any feedback, input?
Madam President?
Mr. Garwell?
Dr. Lemma, I think, this is spot on. When we're looking at, this is an outline for us to be able to go through, right? So I guess my question is specifically, once we come up with a final plan, will this be the roadmap for all staff, for everyone, in the district to be working towards collectively? And will that also become part of their evaluation process at the end of the school year?
Madam President, Mr. Garwell, this is as you said it well. It is our blueprint. We are intending to bring this in front of all our staff members and set ourselves in alignment. Part of the strategic plan has to do with excellence, and excellence is measured through evaluation. So there will be measures that will allow us to see how we're progressing towards attaining and retaining qualified staff and evaluating not only the plan but also ourselves as part of that process.
Very good. Thank you.
Anybody else? I just have with pillar number 2, safe and healthy learning and working environment. I know that when we had money, we did many things with safety and I know that we got the staff very involved. So I kind of struggle with that a little bit. I don't know what we're gonna do, or that's something that we need to talk about, to continue implementing safe and healthy learning. So I don't. That's something that we need to kind of look at, compare what we have done with health and safety here at the district, and now that's kind of like a little thing that I'm concerned what we're gonna do. I mean,
May you expand a little bit on
just where it talks about develop safe and respectful learning and working, where it's talked about provide nutrition and wellness education to student and staff. I mean, come on, we got a vendor that I don't know. That's something that's why we got a vendor to healthy choices. I mean, we had a lot for this district that we have never had, and now we're pretty much limited. So my question is, how are we going to do that? Provide the nutrition, the wellness, the education. So that's something that we need to kind of brainstorm when we meet in our study session. What things? That's what I want to know. What things are we going to do or planning with the resources that we have now? So bottom line is, with the resources that we have now, how are we going to move forward to continue, providing the pillars?
Yeah, and so when I will take that, and as we develop the additional strategies, we'll ensure that we have resources that are aligned to the parameters that have been set forth for us in outlining what we have and how we can maximize what we have towards continuing to achieve safe and healthy learning and working environment.
And especially too, what we talked about with everything that's happening with our students, that's something that's a concern of me is I'm just really concerned that our parents are not going to want to send the kids to school. So if they send the kids to school, how are we going to make sure that they're safe? So all of those things, when we meet in our study session, those are the things that I have concerns about, that we need to talk, what are we doing, so we can make sure that we communicate that to the community.
Thank you.
Okay, so any further? If not, let's move on. Next, approval of the resolution to hire Dr. Lily Mesa Lema, the interim superintendent for the 2025-2026 school year, effective July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any questions? Okay, hearing none, call for the vote. Motion carries. So, Dr. Lemma, congratulations again.
Thank you.
Officially. Officially. Next, approval of the resolution to hire Dr. Ramona Ramirez as assistant principal at Isaac Middle School for the 2025-2026 school year effective July 1st. Ms. Silvia Carizosa, Executive Director of Employee Relations. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, Ms. Carizosa.
Good evening, Madam President, governing board members, and Isaac community. As you know, this resolution reflects our values and our priorities, to retain talented leaders who understand and believe the mission of our district. Dr. Ramona Ramirez is a dedicated educator with both experience and the heart to serve our community. And she's expressed a strong desire to continue supporting our. Oh, I didn't know if it worked or not.
No,
Okay. Sorry.
It does work? Oh, I don't know
Test,
if it worked
test.
either.
Oh, got it. Okay. Dr. Ramona Ramirez is a dedicated educator with both the experience and the heart to serve our community. She has expressed a strong desire, as mentioned earlier, to continue to serve our community and to serve as assistant principal at the Isaac Middle School for the 25-26 school year.
Okay, so call for the vote. Okay, motion carries. Next, governing board approval is requested for the attached resolution authorizing the governing board president, Patricia Jimenez, to sign the required additional document needed by the title company for closing the sale of the district property located at 4135 West Thomas Road, Phoenix, Arizona, 85009. Dr. Lily Mesa Lema, interim superintendent. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Dr. Lema?
Madam President, members of the board, the resolution being brought forward to you for your consideration will give Ms. Jimenez as the board president the authorization to sign the required documents needed by the title company for the closing of the sale of the district property located on 4135 West Thomas Road.
Okay. Any questions?
Madam President,
Mr. Gerwa?
Dr. Lemma, when do we anticipate closing?
Tomorrow.
Okay. And then, so if we close tomorrow and Ms. Jimenez signs off on it, when does the money actually come into the bank?
I believe early next week. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's going to transfer pretty quickly then? Go get cash.
Okay.
That's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, call for the vote. Okay, motion carries. Now, do I have a motion to approve the whole consent agenda?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, call for the vote.
Ms. Hernandez, I'll take your verbal vote.
Yes. Make my thing close.
Okay, motion carries. Any requests for call to the public?
Madam President, we do not have any requests to address the governing board.
Okay, thank you. Our enrollment is 4,957. Calendar is 4th of July. Office will be closed. And our next regular governing board meeting will be held Thursday, July 10th, here at the district office, 3348 West McDowell. And if I don't hear any objections,